Peace and blessings to all kings and queens. This is an update of NFL player gets charged. This is only for educational purpose. I don't have no rights to this video. Educational purpose only. Louis Cruz TV. Thank you for watching.
Your Honor, the state is asking the court to find probable cause in this case for one count of criminal trespass in the second degree with a domestic violence designation, malicious mischief in the third degree with a domestic violence designation, resisting arrest, and driving while impaired. Yes.
Mr. Oppenbecker, any arguments of the sufficiency of evidence? And first, were you able to give a certificate of probable cause that was provided to you written late by the state? Have you been able to review that, Mr.
Oppenbecker? The charges that the state is enumerated today, which include misdemeanor or gross misdemeanor offenses.
I want to read his name. Listen up. Hang on for 1 second. your mic is low.
The attorney might be muted.
Mr. Elson, does the state have an information from Washington State Patrol in relationship to the Highway line?
I'm sorry, in relation to the DUI?
Yes.
In addition to I believe, the 12-page supplemental of the state provided.
I have a 12-page, I don't have a 12-page. It starts at page 16 and it says to page 30. And it's pages 16, 17, 18, 19,
Your Honor,
and 20.
I did provide both the court and Mr. Offenbecker a Washington State Patrol DUI investigation, the part of the DUI investigation. I do have a hard copy here. I can pass forward
Yes, please.
to review that.
That's fine.
Educational purpose only. Louis Cruz TV. Educational purpose only. Louis Cruz TV.
I find probable cause for one charge of criminal trespass in the second degree for domestic violence, one charge of malicious mischief in the third degree for domestic violence, one charge of resisting arrest, and one charge of marijuana. Conditions of release, Ms. Wilson.
The state is asking the court to impose bail in the amount of $10,000 in this case to enter a domestic violence no contact order protecting Raymond Moss, to enter an order to surrender firearms. We would ask that Mr. Sherman be ordered not to possess any weapons, not to consume any alcohol or non-prescribed drugs. And the basis for the state's bail requests are the underlying facts of this case. Based on those facts, the state does have concerns for community safety, Mr. Sherman's family safety, and Mr. Sherman's safety himself. The facts involved in this case allege that law enforcement were dispatched to Mr. Sherman's home in response to suicidal threats by Mr. Sherman. The information indicated that he had been drinking and was taking antidepressants. Subsequent to that report, the Washington State Patrol investigation demonstrates that he did subsequently get in his car and drive away from his home while under the influence. He drove that car into a construction zone. Construction workers present at that location did report that to law enforcement that they believed an individual was operating the vehicle under the influence, and based on the contact with him. The reports further indicate that while Mr. Sherman was in contact with law enforcement, he not only made those suicidal threats, but also made statements about taking a firearm from an officer. Mr. Sherman proceeded to Mr. Raymond Moss's house, his father-in-law, where he repeatedly tried to forcibly enter the front door of that residence. Mr. Moss eventually was placed in enough fear where he not only sprayed Mr. Sherman with bear mace, but retrieved his own firearm in concerns for his own When law enforcement arrived at that location, Mr. Sherman was initially compliant, but however, when notified that he would be placed under arrest, he began to resist the officers by stiffening and flexing his muscles. This required law enforcement to forcibly place him under arrest and place him in handcuffs. The suicidal threats combined with the threats to take an officer's firearm, combined with the fact that there is currently an extreme risk protection order that was filed this year. So the court has previously found Mr. Sherman, the previous court has had significant enough concerns to enter that order and prohibit him from possessing any firearms. We don't have a lot of information about that case, as the court that entered that order did seal that case. But the existence of that order, combined with the facts of this case, do demonstrate that defendant's actions do pose a risk to himself, his family, and the community at large. Suicidal ideation is something to take very seriously in general, but especially in a domestic violence context. And again, this is not only the individual making the suicidal ideation threats, the risk of harm, but also the individuals around him. So based on all of that information, Your Honor, including the driving along with the influence in the construction zone, I think believe that $10,000 is more than appropriate in this case.
Councilman Strawman.
Agreement on the land is, and that's the identified protected party of the state department of contact with the court. There's no objection to the firearms or weapons conditions of the state death code. There's no objection to standard conditions ordering the condition of an officer to not from drugs. We are asking this court to release on the criminal time. And there is no reason to determine any dispute or any other religion when it comes to homicide for the first criminal contact with the justice system and misdemeanor charges. Of course, Mr. Sherman has no criminal history of any kind. He's an enduring part of our greater Seattle community, and part of the fabric of our community here around Washington, the social fabric. He is neither a flight risk nor a credible threat to commit a violent crime, nor a credible threat to interfere with the administration of justice or intimidate witnesses. He's one of the most beloved support figures of our area. He's lived here since 2011 when he was drafted by the Seattle Seahawks. He's owned a home in Maple Valley since 2014. His wife, Ashley Moss, was born and raised here. Their 2 children go to school here. Even though he has played for the San Francisco 49ers for the past few seasons, he has lived here in King County. This is his home, and he is not going anywhere. His contributions to the community are innumerable. In 2013, he founded the Blanket Coverage Richard Sherman Family Foundation, which provides low-income communities with school supplies and clothing. So
Educational purpose only.
He has
Lewis Cruz TV.
sponsored
Thanks to
charity
everybody for
softball
watching
events
it.
in Seattle, and lately he has taken to random acts of kindness in our community, renting a U-Haul and driving to Tacoma to distribute backpacks to folks that need. Richard Sherman is among the best in our community. We are proud to have him here, and he is a good person and a good soul. He is taking these allegations very seriously. Of course, this is his first contact with the criminal justice system, and it's a watershed moment for him. He's been arrested. He spent the past 2 days in jail. He's been separated from his family. And for someone like Mr. Sherman, who's never been in trouble with the law before, who's a free agent, his professional future hangs in the balance.
Leave your comments if
Sherman is someone
you have
this court can
any
depend
opinion
on
of this.
to follow the rules. I will note, in the reports regarding the DUI investigation, Officer Solberg and Trooper Arata both took care to note in the reports that once he was in custody, Mr. Sherman became joking. He became calm. He started to joke with the officers and even commended one of them on their takedown attempt. This is someone who presently appreciates the gravity of the circumstances and can follow the court's ruling. And so the question for the court at this point is, under these circumstances, having been arrested, having sat in jail for 2 days, having been subjected to intense media scrutiny, the question for the court is, what conditions can reasonably assure his appearance in court, the safety of the community, and the non-interference with the administration of justice? This is his first time before the court, Your Honor, and the release on personal recognizance with other standard conditions is appropriate.
You
Mr.
know,
Sherman
release
can
of your own
and will
kindness,
follow
ROR, is
this
not going to
court order
happen.
to come back to court, to not drink alcohol, to not have contact with Mr. Moss. This court can depend on him to follow these standard conditions.
Mr. Ackerman, are there any matters that was found in there present that wish to be heard?
Your Honor, I believe his wife, Ashley Sherman, is in court and would like to address the court.
Ma'am?
In light of the state's decision not to seek a no contact order, Ms. Sherman would not like to address the court this time.
I take no offense. Thank you for being here. Just wanted to give her an opportunity. I'm going to pose the following conditions. Mr. Sherman is not to have any criminal law violations. He is to appear for all court dates. He is to update his address if he moves within 24 business hours. He is not to consume any alcohol or non-prescribed drugs. He is not to drive a motor vehicle without a license and/or insurance. He is not to refuse a breath test or a blood test if reasonably requested by a law enforcement officer. He is not to be in control of a motor vehicle within 2 hours of consuming alcohol and having a BAC of 0.08 or higher, or a THC of 5 nanograms or higher. I am going to issue a no firearms order, preventing him from having any firearms. If he has any firearms, he's going to have to turn those in. If he
How are you
doesn't,
supposed to
there's a
defend
declaration of
himself now?
non-surrender that you can go over with him, Mr. Offenbach, and I will respect the fact that if you guys want to exercise your Fifth Amendment right, that will take into place. I'm going to take that into consideration. I am going to issue a no contact order with Raymond David Moss. Please let Mr. Sherman know that he needs to sign this, and this is my order, sir. It's not his, and it's not Mr. Moss's order. And I'm going to prevent Mr. Sherman from having any contact directly, indirectly, in person, through other persons, by mail, by phone, by electronic means, especially social media, or any kind of third-party contact. He is not to have any contact with Mr. Moss whatsoever. If Mr. Sherman shows up to a place where Mr. Moss is present, Mr. Sherman will need to leave. If Mr. Sherman is at a place where Mr. Moss shows up, Mr. Sherman is to leave. Please make sure he signs that document and he understands it. The big question is, should I let him go? Should I hold him on bail?
Wow.
Court rules indicate that I have to, on the first offense, for anything, presumption is release with conditions. The state is asking for bail of $10,000. I see Mr. Sherman as a pillar in this community. He's a business owner. He's a husband. He's a father. I'm going to release Mr. Sherman on his own promise to return to court.
Okay, okay.
Next court date is going to be tomorrow, the 16th at 8:30 a.m. in courtroom 1.
And, Your Honor, to clarify, given that the state is only requesting probable cause for misdemeanors and gross misdemeanors, we would ask that it be put on the district court second appearance calendar.
Okay. So tomorrow, July 16th at
8:30 a.m. in courtroom 1.
8:30 a.m. in courtroom 1.
B square, y'all. I'm covering it. Educational purpose
Saturday
only.
on Friday afternoon at 2 o'clock.
Thank you for watching Lewis Cruz TV.
Mr. Offenbach, because this matter was filed originally as a felony, it has to remain on the felony calendar until tomorrow. We'll set it for July 16th, tomorrow in Portland 1 at 2 p.m. Any questions?
Well, y'all already know he's released on his own kindness, y'all. He is released on his own kindness. Peace and blessings to everybody out there that watch this. And don't forget, Sunday afternoon is Q&A with Mr. Know-It-All. And movie night. So just to let y'all know, I'm coming up with some good ideas and make sure that everybody be happy. So have a blessful night, everybody. Peace.